One of the hardest things we face in life is trusting the process when it feels like everything is falling apart. It's so easy to believe the universe is against us, that life is unfair, or that we've been left behind. But what if the truth is the opposite? What if everything, even the heartbreak, the setbacks, the closed doors, is actually working for us, not against us? The shift comes when we choose to see pain not as punishment, but as preparation, rejection not as failure, but as redirection, and waiting not as wasted time, but as growth. Today, I want to walk you through 5 powerful keynotes on how to believe that everything is working for you. When we go through struggles, our first instinct is often to ask, why me? We tend to see challenges as punishments, as if life or God or the universe has singled us out for suffering, and that mindset creates a heavy weight we carry on our shoulders. But if we start reframing challenges as lessons rather than punishments, the entire story we tell ourselves about our lives begins to change. Instead of feeling like a victim of circumstance, we begin to see ourselves as students of life, continually learning, growing, and evolving. That doesn't mean the pain disappears, but it does mean the pain now carries meaning, and meaning is what gives us resilience in the middle of storms. Think about the times you've faced obstacles that you thought were impossible to get through. Maybe it was the end of a relationship, the loss of a job, or a dream that didn't go the way you hoped. In the moment, it probably felt like devastation, like something had been ripped away from you unfairly. But when you look back, you can often trace how that experience forced you to grow, to dig deeper, to find strength you didn't know you had. You may even realize that without that challenge, you wouldn't have developed the courage, the empathy, or the wisdom that you carry now. This is the gift hidden inside difficulty. It teaches us something about ourselves that ease and comfort never could. It is so tempting to compare our lives to the polished, curated version of others that we see around us. We see people who appear to have it all figured out, moving through life with ease, while we're stumbling, falling, and struggling to stand up again. But what we often forget is that every single person carries a private set of challenges, and those challenges are shaping them in ways we can't see. Reframing challenges means we stop asking, why am I the only one going through this? And start asking, what can I learn from this that I couldn't have learned any other way? That simple shift pulls us out of the mindset of punishment and into the mindset of growth. Reframing doesn't mean pretending everything is okay when it isn't. It's not about toxic positivity or forcing yourself to smile through pain. It's about choosing to believe that the experience, no matter how painful, has the potential to add depth to your life. When you think about the people you admire most, the ones whose stories inspire you, it's rarely because they lived an easy, problem-free life. It's because they faced adversity, and instead of letting it define them, they used it to transform themselves. Their resilience, courage, and authenticity were forged in the fire of difficulty. That is the essence of seeing challenges as lessons. Sometimes the lesson is about humility, reminding us we don't have control over everything. Sometimes it's about compassion, teaching us how to sit with others in their suffering because we've been there too. Other times, it's about patience, because growth doesn't happen on our timeline. These lessons are rarely ones we would choose, but they are always the ones that end up shaping us the most. And if we can believe that life isn't punishing us, but rather preparing us, then we can walk through even the darkest valleys with a sense of purpose. When you hit a wall, when things don't go as planned, when you feel betrayed by your own expectations, the invitation is to pause and ask yourself, what is this here to teach me? The answer might not come right away, and that's okay. Sometimes the lesson reveals itself only in hindsight, long after the tears have dried. But if you hold on to the belief that challenges are not punishments, you create space for resilience and hope to grow in the cracks of your disappointment. That's the shift that changes how we carry our struggles. Trusting the timing of life is one of the hardest things we will ever learn because our culture has conditioned us to believe that everything should happen on our schedule. We set goals, create timelines, and map out exactly when things are supposed to fall into place. But life rarely follows our blueprint. Sometimes doors open before we feel ready, and other times we wait for years for an opportunity, a relationship, or a breakthrough that seems to take forever to arrive. In those waiting seasons, it can feel like nothing is happening, like we've been overlooked or forgotten. But what if the delay is not a denial? What if the waiting itself is part of the preparation we need to step into the next chapter fully equipped? When you think about moments in your life where something felt delayed, it's worth asking yourself what was happening during that space of waiting. Maybe you were developing skills you didn't even realize you needed. Maybe you were building resilience that would carry you through the next challenge. Maybe you were learning patience in a culture that idolizes instant gratification. We often think of waiting as wasted time, but it can actually be the most fertile season of growth. The problem is that growth in waiting seasons is invisible. You don't see the roots stretching down into the soil, but those roots are what will sustain the tree when the storms come. Trusting the timing means believing that just because you don't see visible results doesn't mean nothing is happening. It's so easy to compare our journey to others and think we're behind. We see people getting married, starting families, achieving career success, or living dreams we've been longing for, and we start to believe we've missed our chance. But life isn't a race, and we're not running the same course. Each of us has a unique path, and trusting the timing means letting go of comparison and believing that what is meant for us will arrive when we're truly ready to receive it. Rushing what isn't ready only leaves us frustrated, while patience allows the right things to unfold at the right moment. There's a kind of quiet wisdom in recognizing that timing is not something we can control, but it is something we can surrender to. When a door doesn't open when you expect it to, the immediate instinct is often to push harder, to force something into being, but sometimes the delay is protection. That job you thought you wanted might have drained you. That relationship you were desperate to hold on to might have broken you. That opportunity you felt entitled to might have been too heavy to carry at that point in your life. Timing is not just about when something arrives, it's about whether we are ready to hold it without being crushed under the weight of it. Trusting the timing means accepting that life might know better than we do when it comes to what we can handle. Patience is not passive. It doesn't mean sitting still and doing nothing while you wait for life to align. Patience is active trust. It's showing up every day, doing the small, unglamorous work of growing into the person who will be ready when the right opportunity arrives. It's about planting seeds even when you don't see sprouts. It's about investing in yourself, nurturing your character, and preparing for the moment when the door finally swings open. Because when it does, you'll realize that all the waiting wasn't wasted. It was working for you, shaping you, refining you, and preparing you in ways you couldn't see at the time. Rejection is one of the most painful experiences we face as human beings because it cuts to the very core of our desire to be chosen, to be seen, and to be valued. Whether it's being turned down for a job, losing out on an opportunity we worked hard for, or being left behind in a relationship we thought would last, rejection can feel like a confirmation of our deepest fears that we are not good enough, not worthy enough, not lovable enough. But what if rejection isn't about lack or inadequacy? What if rejection is actually redirection, guiding us away from something that isn't meant for us and pointing us towards something better? When we begin to see rejection not as the end, but as an opening, our entire relationship with failure, loss, and disappointment changes. Think back to a time when you faced rejection that felt unbearable. Maybe you didn't get the promotion you were sure you deserved, or maybe someone you loved walked away. In the moment, it probably felt like the end of the road, like everything you had invested was wasted. But often, when you look back later, you can see how that rejection set you on a different path that led to something far greater than what you originally wanted. That job you didn't get might have opened the door for a career that was more aligned with your gifts. That person who left might have freed you to find a deeper, healthier love. That opportunity that closed might have redirected you to something that brought more fulfillment than you ever could have imagined. Rejection feels like loss, but it is often the clearing needed to make space for something more aligned with who you are becoming. We live in a culture that equates rejection with failure, but failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of the journey toward it. Rejection is simply information, a signpost telling you that this particular door is not the one you're meant to walk through. And while it hurts, that doesn't mean it's bad. Some of the most successful, fulfilled people in the world will tell you that the best things in their lives came after a rejection they thought would break them. The pain of rejection is real, but so is the possibility hidden inside it. When you trust that rejection is redirection, you begin to loosen your grip on the belief that things must unfold exactly the way you imagined in order to be good. What makes rejection so hard is that it often feels personal, like a reflection of our worth. But rejection says more about fit than it does about value. You might not be the right fit for that job, that person, or that opportunity, but that doesn't mean you're unworthy. It just means there is a better match waiting for you. When you shift your mindset from, I wasn't chosen because I'm not enough, to, I wasn't chosen because something better is aligning for me, you reclaim your sense of dignity and hope. It doesn't take away the sting, but it transforms the way you hold the experience. Sometimes we don't realize how heavy the things we're chasing would have been to carry. We think we know what's best, but we only see a small piece of the picture. Rejection, in its painful way, protects us from forcing our way into places that would eventually drain or break us. It redirects us towards something more sustainable, something healthier, something aligned with our values and growth. That's why learning to embrace rejection as redirection is so powerful. It takes the sharp edge off the experience and allows us to trust that life isn't shutting us out. It's pointing us forward. Gratitude is one of the most grounding and transformative practices we can cultivate, especially in seasons of uncertainty. When life feels unstable, when nothing seems to make sense, when the future looks unclear, gratitude becomes the anchor that keeps us from drifting into despair. It doesn't erase the hard things, it doesn't magically fix our problems, but it shifts the lens through which we see the world. Gratitude reminds us that even in the middle of the storm, there are still things worth noticing, worth holding on to, worth celebrating. It helps us zoom out and realize that while everything might not be perfect, not everything is broken either, and that perspective gives us strength to keep moving forward. It's easy to be grateful when life is going well, when we get the promotion, when love feels secure, when doors are opening, when health is strong. But the real power of gratitude shows up in the moments when things feel shaky and uncertain. It's in those seasons when gratitude becomes less about listing blessings and more about intentionally noticing what remains, what sustains, what continues to show up for us, even when everything else feels fragile. Gratitude in uncertainty is like a flashlight in the dark. It doesn't make the darkness disappear, but it gives us enough light to take the next step. We often think of gratitude as a feeling, but it's really a practice, a discipline. You don't wait until you feel grateful to start practicing it. You practice it to create space for gratitude to grow. Sometimes that practice looks like writing down 3 small things each day that brought you a sense of comfort or joy. Sometimes it looks like pausing to acknowledge the smile of a stranger, the taste of your morning coffee, the quiet moments when you realize you've made it through another day. These small acts of noticing build a habit of appreciation that steadies us when uncertainty tries to overwhelm us. Gratitude doesn't ask us to deny our struggles. It asks us to hold them alongside what is still good, One of the most profound effects of gratitude is how it rewires our perspective. Our brains are naturally wired to focus on threats, on what's missing, on what could go wrong. This survival instinct kept our ancestors alive, but it doesn't always serve us well in modern life. Practicing gratitude interrupts that cycle. It trains our minds to also recognize what is working, what is supportive, what is beautiful. When we practice gratitude in uncertainty, we teach ourselves to live in the tension of both pain and joy, both loss and love, both fear and hope. That tension is where resilience grows. When uncertainty feels overwhelming, gratitude grounds us in the present moment. Instead of being consumed by all the what ifs of the future, gratitude asks, what is here right now that I can be thankful for? Maybe it's the fact that you're still breathing, still learning, still showing up despite the weight you carry. Maybe it's the people who check in on you when you feel alone. Maybe it's the lessons you've gained through struggle that are quietly shaping you into someone stronger and wiser. Gratitude doesn't minimize uncertainty. It gives you the courage to walk through it without losing sight of the good that's still unfolding around you. Life has a way of holding both beauty and brokenness at the same time. And one of the most liberating things we can learn is how to make space for both struggle and growth without needing one to cancel out the other. Too often, we fall into the trap of believing that if we're growing, we shouldn't be struggling, or if we're struggling, then growth must not be happening. But the truth is that both can exist together. In fact, most of the time, growth is born out of struggle. The moments when we feel stretched, uncomfortable, or undone are often the same moments that are shaping us into stronger, more compassionate, and more resilient versions of ourselves. There's something powerful about acknowledging that struggle is not a sign of weakness. Struggle means you are in the process of becoming. You are wrestling with the tension of where you are and where you're headed. Growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. It happens in the places where we're forced to confront what isn't working, to let go of old patterns, and to lean into change. Holding space for both struggle and growth means giving yourself permission to be human, to not have it all figured out, and to recognize that progress often looks messy. Growth rarely looks like a straight line. It looks like setbacks, breakthroughs, failures, and small victories woven together. When we deny our struggles or pretend they don't exist, we rob ourselves of the opportunity to learn from them. Struggle has a way of revealing our deepest fears and insecurities, but it also uncovers our hidden strengths. When we choose to face our struggles honestly, we create the conditions for growth to take root. That doesn't mean we have to love the pain or be grateful for every hardship in the moment, but it does mean we can hold the awareness that what feels heavy today might become the very soil where tomorrow's growth begins to sprout. It's about embracing the paradox that life can be both brutally hard and breathtakingly beautiful at the same time. We often look at other people and assume they've figured it out, that they're growing effortlessly without struggle. But if you've ever heard someone's real story, you know that behind every chapter of growth, there are pages filled with tears, doubts, and obstacles that no one else saw. Struggle doesn't disqualify you from growth. It qualifies you for it. It means you're in the arena, showing up, doing the work of living fully. Holding space for both allows us to practice compassion, not just for ourselves, but for others. When we stop pretending that growth requires perfection, we can be more authentic with one another, creating connection instead of comparison. The beauty of allowing both struggle and growth to coexist is that it frees us from the pressure of needing to arrive. We stop waiting for the day when life will finally be free of challenges, and instead we begin to see growth as something happening right now, even in the middle of the chaos. The tears and the breakthroughs belong to the same story. The failures and the wisdom they leave behind are both part of the same journey. When we hold space for both, we give ourselves permission to live more fully, to embrace the wholeness of our experience, and to trust that every season of struggle is shaping us into someone more aligned with the life we are meant to live.